John Emmett in the evening in the UK, saying good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever the Fozy and the rest of you are in the world. Gordon Smith, good evening from Denmark. Jared de Jong, our Dutch Fozy in SoCal. John Lamberts van Buren, our Dutch Fozy in the Netherlands. Dutch run the sailing world, Julia, I think.
They did for a long time.
They ran the world for a while. Alistair Murray is up early in Oz, where it's only 0800, I think. We go off daylight time this weekend. We go on to daylight time here in the U.S. Fog machine up in the North Bay, or around the bay. He's back from 4 days of hunkering down in the blizzard up at Lake Tahoe. More than 6 feet of snow.
I know, it's been incredible.
Clayton Allen Embley, Mr. Bourbon. We'll talk about him a little bit. Let's get this one through the starting line. Julia.
Here we go.
Chris Fury in Melbourne. Clark Chapin, good eye from typically March-like Plymouth, Michigan, raining a little bit warmer than usual. Greetings to you all. From Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia Vedekint, as usual, is here. We didn't do our pre-warm-up, our moving of our arms and singing of songs, get our mouth and brains going. Looks good, Julia. I'm your host, Tom Eamon, representing the Balboa Yacht Club. Julia represents the St. Francis Yacht Club. And we're very proud of the role that yacht clubs play in our beloved sport because they are the heart and soul, along with community sailing centers and classes and yacht racing associations and so on, right? And so on.
It's the people.
It is the people. Who else is signing on while our theme music plays? Graham Sweeney is checking in from Yell, Scotland. Don Lunabos from up north of the bridge in Sonoma. Peter Taylor in New York City. And Fritz Mueller down in Miami, where the Bacardi Cup is underway through this weekend. Light winds for the most part. Ed Worley saying cheers from SoCal. Mary Jude, hello MJ, in Philadelphia, PA.
Hello, Mary Jude.
Nice to see her on. Nice to have you all on. This is our show number 691. We're 9 away from 700 shows. What are we going to do at 700 shows, Julia?
I don't know. We're going to have to decide.
Tear down the studio, put a nice reading chair over here, open up the blinds.
And put you in a straitjacket. That would work.
You think? Hi, everybody. Welcome. As I said, this is number 691. It's Tuesday, the 5th of March. We're live, of course, from San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. And on the advice of several of you, our Fozy, they like to start with a Bravo Zulu, and we're going to do that with a couple stories today, both of which are worthy of a BZ or a Bravo Zulu or a BZ if you're not from the States. Clarice Kremer, remember her? Remember that allegation, anonymous allegation? Don't ever trust it, anonymous allegations. The good news that she and her husband, Tanguy, you say Guy,
yeah,
I think in French,
so.
Tanguy Le Turquois, sorry if that's not even close, cleared of misconduct by the Vendée Globe International jury that was appointed to handle this case, 2+ years afterwards. So that's good news. French yachtswoman Clarice Kremer and her husband Tanguy Le Turquois, how do you say it, Julia? Turquois, have been cleared of anonymous allegations of cheating during the last edition of the Vendée Globe single-handed nonstop around the world race. You remember she was accused of having radio communications. Is that like radio intercourse as opposed to social intercourse?
No.
You can shake your finger if you want.
I will.
Huh?
Yeah. No.
Radio. She was accused of having radio intercourse with her husband. No, they weren't. They weren't having polite. They were.
Never mind.
She was testing her AIS. Apparently, that's what the jury found. Mm-hmm. And that's all. And the ruling was handed down by the international jury convened by the Vendée Globe organizers a few weeks ago, followed an independent investigation into the couple's WhatsApp messages while Kremer was participating in the 2020-21 edition of the high-profile race, in which outside assistance of any kind is strictly prohibited. The investigation was prompted by an anonymous email received by the president of the French Sailing Federation, the FFV, which included supposedly incriminating images of WhatsApp messages, screen grabs of those messages between the married pair sent during the race. After reviewing these images, along with evidence from Kremer and Le Turquoise, did I say that right? Turquoise. The jury concluded that there had been no misconduct by either party. By either penalty. No penalty to either party. That's just Justin Chisholm, our longtime friend from Great Britain, writing on his website, superb website, by the way, yachtracing.life. He, author, photographer, and more in our sport for many, many years.
Did they win that race, or why was there a protest?
No, what it was after the fact. Remember, she's been accused of some sponsor stuff and back and forth, and it was just some crouton who was trying, I think, to cause grief.
Yeah.
They'd sold her boat. The people who bought the boat looked on the, remember she was having a kid, her sponsor said, well, if you're having a kid, you may not qualify, yada, yada.
Right.
But the point is that the people who bought the boat then went in and looked on her, apparently on her computer, which hadn't been scrubbed, and saw these messages back and forth with her husband, which they thought maybe was him giving her outside assistance during the race, which would not be correct.
No.
But, 2.5 years later, but bravo Zulu, not only to them for being cleared, but also to the French Federation for immediately.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
You agree?
Yeah, I do.
Clearing the air, getting the Vendée Globe people to appoint a jury, saying it's up to you, the race organizer, not up to us, the Federation. Sort it out, which they did, and that put an end to it with a fine punt.
Yeah.
Punkt, as the Germans would say.
Punkt.
A punkt. Another Bravo Zulu here at the top of the show. You know what that is? The Antigua Yacht Club.
Yes.
That is the prize giving for the RORC's Caribbean 600. It's truly an international affair. That race was over a couple of weeks ago, but we're still celebrating it because there were over 500 sailors taking part from 26 different countries. The first warning signal sounded at Fort Charlotte for an epic race featuring a highly competitive and varied fleet of IRC offshore boats, Class 40s, and multi-hulls. And, of course, that, again, was almost 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Monday, right? Yesterday, when that started. Terrific event. Then they came back, and we didn't really cover the prize giving, but they've since come out with some great photos and a video that I want to show you here in a sec. But these are folks having fun in our sport, our beloved sport. And this regatta goes from strength to strength. It was the 15th edition of the RORC's Caribbean 600 just held. And here is a video featuring the arch rivals, but friendly foes in the IRC class between Rand, the Swedish boat, Ron, and Wizard, the American boat. Have a look at this fabulous video of these two competitors.
I think the beginning was nearly classical, though the breeze was a little bit more already to the southeast in the beginning part, so that made the first part of the race really fast, I think, for everybody. But then we knew that new weather system was coming in, which is not classical at all here in the Caribbean. Even the people who support us on the shore with weather routing, they didn't expect to see that kind of conditions either. But then what you see is what you got, and you have to deal with it.
So I think with this and any offshore race, what we're always looking for is some really great competition, and we had that with Wizard. So we had a really, really good race with them, and our boats are quite different. They're ours is a bit molded but differently, so they should be pretty strong just upwind downwind, and we should be stronger reaching. And but we are rating higher, so we knew that we had to get away from them and stretch away.
Well, you get this sort of this rubber band thing going, where the guy in front of you sails into a lighter breeze, and then you catch up. and then they get the breeze and sail away. So you're doing this all of the time. So yeah, it gets really exciting, of course, when they get bigger and you catch up to them. Rand had slipped away from us up around St. Kitts actually the first night, and we were playing catch up to them the whole rest of the race.
And they came in on us a lot at the end, and because we thought we had them tucked away, to be honest, and we thought that's good. And then, but on the last bit, they really came into us, and it became a nail biter.
Goes to the level of the high level of competition here, that you can race for almost 3 days, and it comes down to 3 minutes. Hats off to them. Very fast boat, very good crew, and it was really good for us to have that rabbit to chase, if you will. We learned a lot about our boat.
But then it's also kind of, you step ashore and it's like you think about it a little bit. It's like, did we sail as good as we could? Did we do too many stupid mistakes? Did we have a good time, right? And then I said, yes, we did have a great time. And we don't think we did many mistakes. We felt really good about the way we were sailing. And then, of course, there's a bit of clouds going on. And then sometimes you're on the right side of them and sometimes on the wrong side of them. But that's also part of the sport. I mean, there's so many things, right, that can happen. And, Caribbean 600 is one of the best offshore races. If we could race again tomorrow, we probably would. That's how good this race is.
The RORC's Caribbean 600, nice video, wasn't that, Julia? Mm-hmm. Nicholas, we were just saying, Nicholas Zenström, who owns Ron, he's Swedish. Is it Ron or Ran? It's got a little accent on the A in Swedish. Somebody will help us on that pronunciation. But bloody hell, that guy, you get a lot of guys like Larry Ellison, like we could go through the whole long list of entrepreneurs, of people who are senior serious people in life and in business who love our sport. And we're lucky to have all of them. He's the guy that invented Skype, sold it, bought it back because whoever he sold it to was screwing it up. Yeah. And then he sold it now to Google. And Google's merging it, I guess, with Google.
I think he sold it to Microsoft.
Mike, thank you. Thank you very much, Microsoft. And Microsoft is merging it with their comm software, and I don't know how that's going. We still use it, though, here, because I find that it is the best quality. Technologically, it's easier to bring a guest on. We get high quality. Zoom limits us to 720p, and here I am going off like a nerd again. But we get 1080p, we get wireless between this computer over here that runs the Skype into our main broadcast computer. And it's a great piece of software. Thank you, Nicholas Zenström. Thank you, RORC, for putting on the 15th edition of what is becoming, maybe not quite their signature event because that's the Fastnet. But
I was thinking of the party in Antigua, and I've been in that. That's a great party.
Well, there are great, the Caribbean's a great place for sailing.
Yes.
There's breeze, there's parties, it's the island attitude. It's like Hawaii. I always said the best place for sailing are islands.
Yeah.
Whether it's Aquidneck Island, you know where Aquidneck Island is? That's where Newport is. Newport's on an island. People don't realize that. There's 3 towns on Aquidneck Island: Newport, Middletown, Portsmouth, Bermuda, Cowes, Tasmania, Australia, if you count that as a continent island, and New Zealand, which is a big island, but still a couple of big islands, more than a couple. But our sport loves islands, and I think they love the Caribbean.
And people who live on islands sail.
Because anybody on an island is never too far from the seashore.
That's correct.
She sells seashells down by the seashore.
Right.
We can check if we have well, not the plosives. There's another
for the S's?
Yeah, for de-esser we have, and that's what you check your microphones.
Ooh.
We have de-essers on both.
Ooh, everybody needs a de-esser.
You do. A de-esser and a de-effer, right?
Yes.
Oh, Julia. What day is it today? What are we celebrating, Julia?
Is it really a margarita?
It is a margarita. 2 margaritas, and that's the Mexican flag. What are we celebrating today? Mackinac Island. Thank you, Fog Machine. Good point. Tinsley Island, Fog Machine, as you will appreciate. What are we celebrating today, Julia?
Well,
Clark Chapin talking about Zug Island for Michiganders. We are celebrating.
It isn't Mexican Independence Day.
It's not Cinco de Mayo. It's the 5th of March. Yes, Clark Chapin. It is the Cinco de... See the graphic?
Oh, yeah.
It's Marco. And that's
Yeah.
Cinco de Marco, they pronounce it.
Yeah.
March 5th. Every year, are we celebrating the first Mexicans? The Stingray's going, Fog Machine, of course, Null Island. No, it's not. And Key West, another good example of a great sailing place. Apparently, it's Nick Craig's birthday, too. Was it today or yesterday, Karen Rauer? Hello, Karen, long time. Karen's
Yes.
been on the show. I haven't seen her in a while. Nice to see you. But it is this holiday that was invented back in, I can't remember, 07. Here's the details. Cinco de, I would have said Marcho, but apparently they say Cinco de Marco, is celebrated every year on March 5th, just 12 days before St. Patrick's Day. Who would have known? A play on the Mexican holiday named Cinco de Mayo. This made-up holiday prepares your liver. Get this.
There we go.
Get this, you bourbon drinkers. Talk about some bourbon. Some fine bourbon. From Clayton Embley. Prepares your liver for all the drinking that happens on St. Patrick's Day in 12 days' time. This day is widely celebrated by those who are not regular or heavy drinkers. Oh, yeah? So as to ease themselves into the demands of St. Patrick's Day, even though Cinco de Marco or Marco is a celebration of drinking, it is advisable to drink safely and in moderation. And here's the 50-second video.
What is today, Cinco de Marco, is celebrated every year on March 5th. According to the official Cinco de Marco website, the day was created in 2007. It marks the beginning of a 12-day period when people train their livers for drinking huge amounts of alcohol on St. Patrick's Day. Cinco de Marco is a made-up holiday with lighthearted origins. It is the invention of a man who goes by the name of Carlos Fantastico. As legend tells it, in 2007, while dining at a Mexican restaurant, the matador Fantastico was enjoying his margarita. A thought came to him. He was at a Mexican restaurant enjoying a Mexican drink, but the decor around him was green and St. Patrick's Day was less than a fortnight away. He imagined a holiday that would celebrate the best of both cultures, and thus the idea of Cinco de Marco was born. Contrary to popular belief, Cinco de Marco isn't about excessive drinking. Fantastico believes that it is a celebration of finding your limits. Even though Cinco de Marco is a celebration of drinking, it is advisable to drink safely.
Yeah. Okay, Julia. We dedicate that to Jody Shields down in Oz. I haven't seen him on the comments yet, but Jody, if you're watching, Anti-Lent Fog Machine is saying Baton Rouge, the real holiday, is a made-up holiday for sure. Well, so is this. Yeah, Cinco de Mayo is a made-up holiday too, and mostly it's an American holiday, not a Mexican holiday. So that's what we're sort of celebrating today.
But getting ready for St. Patty's Day.
But we also want to celebrate. Yes. We
Yes.
have to go over to your place, that
Yes.
Buena Vista Cafe.
Right. Breakfast at BB.
And have a
Irish coffee.
Irish coffee, which they supposedly invented just not a couple blocks, but maybe a dozen blocks from us here in San Francisco. I think the gentleman brought the recipe over from Ireland.
He did.
And then popularized it, marketed it, promoted it here. But we're also celebrating our patrons. Thank you for your support. Those of you who've joined us by Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. A couple new ones too, and we appreciate it very much. And before we leave all of that madness, Julia, we also have to celebrate Clayton Embley, our Fozy, who is from Kentucky. I think he lives in Washington, D.C. now. Clayton Ward, he's on here, I think.
I thought he was in Maryland.
Well, I think he sails in Maryland. You know, it's all kind of close in there. But Captain Clayton Embley, if I can turn my camera on, I'll show you his card. And he's a regular on here, and he runs a thing called the Bourbon Boat on the Kentucky Rivers, Kentucky River Tours. And we've talked to him about it before. And it's apparently a going concern. He does this as his main, I guess, occupation these days. And he's sent us, Julia, a box. You didn't see it when you came in this
You've
morning.
been hiding it.
Well, it's out on the bar, and I didn't point it out. And your lady backs you out of the elevator now, so you don't really see the bar. but there are 4 or 5 or 6 bottles of premium Kentucky bourbon. And thank you, Clayton, for that. We really do appreciate it. He also sent the Burgee to the yacht club at, I'll show it over here to this camera. Now those of you who are Americans know that is the Maryland state flag, doing business as a Burgee, and it is a sailing club. We'll see if any of you can figure out which one it is. I know the name now. I've been able to figure that out. Thanks also to some help from some Fozzie. But the Bourbon Boat Tours, this is not a paid advertisement. But what Clayton does looks like a lot of fun, and he's offered one of these to Meg, daughter Meg, and her her husband now, who is from Kentucky.
Oh, good.
And he said, hey, when you're in town, come on down there and use it. And Julia, you have his letter, right?
I do. It's a nice letter, but
hold it up to the cam, would you, just for a sec? And then what is that business in the middle about how to drink bourbon?
Right. Yeah. This is. There are only 3 rules for drinking Kentucky bourbon. If it ain't from Kentucky, it ain't bourbon. Second, the best way to drink it is the way you like it. And third, when drinking it with friends, never put the cork back in the bottle.
Okay, well, that's a tribute to Clayton. And thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And really to all of our Fozzie on the drinking show. Now that I don't drink, I can celebrate alcohol, I guess, on here. The sailing show with a drinking habit or vice versa. And we'll celebrate Clayton some more.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Maybe I'll have to try a little bourbon and, branch water, a little soda water with that at some point. We'll do that. Thank you all, again, to you patrons who support us and keep this show on the proverbial road. Another follow-up, and really a Bravo Zulu, but we'll get to the Nick Craig and the whole feature story about him winning his 6th OK Dinghy Worlds. We covered the foreshadowed that on Friday's show. But what a terrific event they've ended up having there, no surprise, in Brisbane. But let's get to our other favorite sailor of the last couple months. She passed around Cape Horn on the 26th of January and has been making her way up the South Atlantic and now the North Atlantic, and she's closing in to the finish line in A Coruña in Spain for this global solo challenge. That is Cole Brauer with her yacht, her 40-footer called First Light. She from Booth Bay, Maine. And here, as we've been showing you, her Pilgrim's Progress. I can say Pilgrim's Progress, even though she's from Maine, she's actually Hawaiian, I think, has settled in Maine. That's where she was on Friday. Still quite a few days away from the northwest corner of Spain. The first place boat had already finished. And then today, just a couple hours ago, you can see she's closed right in. Sailed 175 nautical miles. She's sailing, I guess, downhill now as she approaches the west coast of Spain, northwest corner. And she is expected there in the next 72 hours. And she'll finish second. And when she does finish, assuming she does, which looks like she will, she could probably practically row her way to the finish line now. But it can be stormy and rough, as it was for the first place gentleman when he went in to the finish line a week or so ago. But it looks like she is going to finish and will be the first American woman to circumnavigate the world solo. So bravo Zulu to her. But that's not the reason we've been following her, is it, Julia?
No, it's because she's so wonderful.
She is wonderful, and she has been putting up these videos on her Instagram page. And here's the latest one from this morning.
So the last couple hours I've been a little tormented with the potential of switching from the A5 back to the Fro. It's a little gusty for the A5. I broached a couple times last night and just was like, we'll just go with the Solent right now until daylight. With the Fro, as I was taking it down yesterday, I noticed that there was a rip, and the truth of the matter is that if this was the middle of the race, I would spend the time to fix it, try to fix it properly, do the right thing, make sure it looks good, and that I know that it's going to be safe and not turn into a flag on the sprint. but also a lot of people have been asking me, what's next for the boat. And the truth of the matter is I really don't know. I've kind of discussed a little bit about us, selling the boat, or kind of what's next. I'm not really quite sure. But the truth of the matter is that I kind of want to preserve the gear a little bit. I don't really have anyone chasing me down right this moment, so there's no point in me pushing really hard and turning the fro into a flag. And if I can have a proper fix done by, my sailmaker in October. So there's just no reason to really push super hard right now. And it torments me because, of course, I'm a racer and I want to push hard, but I'm just trying to enjoy the sunrise, make some breakfast, and take a look.
Julia, do you imagine yourself having done that when you were 30?
Maybe. But not now.
Well, not now. I don't imagine myself ever doing it. I don't aspire to do it. I didn't aspire to do it.
I'm not a solo racer.
You're a booze cruiser.
Well, no, I'm.
And a racer chaser. You used to follow the races and
But I did
fly ahead. And
I did a lot of offshore delivery stuff that was really straight sailing and tough.
But you've also supported the 6-meter effort at you and your late husband at
Right.
St. Francis. You went all over back and forth to Europe and Australia following and supporting the 6-meter. You supported the America's Cup campaigns of
Right.
St. Francis and of Golden Gate when I was
Right.
the vice commodore at Golden Gate and with Larry's campaigns. So, the sport is so multifaceted.
Even for would-be sailors who sail.
For would-be sailors. Well, you're a sailor.
I am.
And you're very knowledgeable. This gal's terrific. I don't think, as there were comments here in the People magazine, we're going to show you that from when we ran that Friday. I'm not going to run it again, but just to show you, those of you who didn't see Friday's show. But people, I don't think she has any idea how big a celebrity she has become.
I think that's right too.
At least here in this country.
The New York Times headline, which said "Sailing Alone with 400,000 Friends."
Exactly. And of course, once you show up in the New York Times, you are a big deal. In fact, before that, she showed up in People magazine. I hadn't seen the People magazine until one of the Fozy sent me a link. And this was a photo she took, sunset in the South Atlantic. People magazine just went on to her Instagram page, pulled off her photos, pulled off a couple of her videos, and ran a nice story back in in January. Sailor Cole Brauer is making history as the first U.S. female to sail to race solo across the globe. It's a dream come true. It's exclusive. Then, as you said, Julia, the New York Times, our longtime friend Chris Museler, who is a terrific writer, author, photographer, and sailor and family sailor. His family have a cruising boat, and he wrote this article that appeared last Thursday. Alone on the ocean with 400,000 friends. You quoted the headline, remembered it. As Cole Brauer speeds to the finish of a solo race around the world, she is using Instagram to blow up sailing's elitist image. We had this on Friday.
Yes.
Before she could begin that subhead down there, before she could begin the Global Solo Challenge, a nonstop solo race around the world, Cole Brauer had to sail First Light, a 40-foot yacht, from Rhode Island to Spain. That was a photo by Samuel Hodges. Now, since those articles, the coverage here in the mainstream media is going north significantly. It's booming. And here is a piece that NBC ran, our National Broadcast Corp, one of our major networks, ran on her yesterday or the day before.
I missed that.
Love you! Here we go!
Aboard this 40-foot racing boat named First Light, 29-year-old Cole Brauer has spent 4 months at sea, surviving terrifying moments like this, when massive waves tossed her across the cabin, badly injuring her rib.
All this is just some sailing solution.
She even put in her own IV when dehydration took hold.
As I said, pretty big waves.
And now she's closing in on becoming the first American woman to race nonstop around the world alone, competing in the Global Solo Challenge. She's the only woman and the youngest of the 16 skippers who started the race last year. More than half already dropped out. She zoomed with us from the middle of the Atlantic.
You wear so many hats on this journey.
Solo sailors, you have to be able to do everything. You need to be able to get up even when you're so exhausted, and you have to be able to fix everything on the boat.
The last 24 hours, I've been so angry.
The journey, grueling. No stops on the roughly 30,000 miles from Spain, down the west coast of Africa, over to Australia, and around the Cape of South America before returning to the starting point. A finish line Brauer's expected to hit just days from now.
Have you ever been really scared in a moment?
I can feel the boat is deteriorating. I can just feel that things are starting to break down. Okay, it's okay.
For the 100-pound powerhouse from New York, sailing is a career she's been chasing since college.
I push so much harder when someone's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, okay, watch me.
An attitude she hopes will inspire young girls in a male-dominated sport.
It would be amazing if there was just one other girl that saw me and said, oh, I can do that too.
One woman now navigating a new chapter in history. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Mainstream media with a budget, with talented people producing, and they can put together a segment like that. It was a good long segment too.
Yeah.
Now there's a, this.
I'm going to say thank her for all her work, because she really makes both personally and her camera work.
Well, exactly. They just can go on and pull all that stuff off her Instagram, and it's photos and videos. But there's I guess you'd call this a subscription news service called Inside Edition, kind of a People magazine type show, a little newsier than perhaps People magazine. But they also ran a video, and here that one is.
Just a year ago, Cole Brauer was told she was too short to be a sailor at 5'1". Today, the feisty 29-year-old is set to become the first American woman to sail around the world nonstop. I spoke with her today.
I think a lot of people might have gone and cried. I did cry, but they probably would have stopped and not kept going.
Cole is less than 72 hours away from finishing a round-the-world race aboard her yacht, First Light. 400,000 fans are following her progress on social media. The highs.
Hey guys, so today's video is coming from the top of my rig.
And the lows, like a rogue wave that threw her across the cabin.
You were injured pretty badly. What was that like?
It was incredibly painful, but I think I learned a lot. It ended up working out.
An autopilot malfunction threatened to capsize her. Look, the boat is almost on its side.
After that, I was pretty spooked, so didn't sleep very much last night.
And she once had to give herself an IV. Ouch! When she became dangerously dehydrated.
And I'm terrified of needles.
Cole set off from Spain in late October and sailed south around Africa, over to Australia, around South America's Cape Horn, and back north, expecting to end up where her journey began, in Spain again. She is the only woman among 15 solo racers. 9 of the other guys dropped out along the way. As the first American woman ever to complete the epic journey, Cole says she hopes to inspire other young women, even in the face of challenges like this.
Okay, so you can see it looks a lot like the NBC report, and in some respects, in other respects, quite different. But what fantastic coverage for our sport. U.S. Sailing has run one little thing. They're distracted, of course, by other. They ran one little thing with a link to the New York Times piece by Chris Muessler. It's so far. That's all they've done. But she's closing in. Bravo Zulu to her. I'm glad that we've been covering her. I'm really glad, and thank you to all of you who suggested that we should.
Yes.
There's the latest chart and you can see her estimated finish there on the far right in the second row is the 7th. Today's the 5th. So on the next sheet, that report from Inside Edition was from today, from this morning, I believe. It probably means it was last night when it showed up.
Mm-hmm.
They probably aired it last night and it showed up on the internet this morning. So she's in second place, way ahead of the third place guy. This that we keep talking about, Andrea Mura, Vento di Sardegna, and Felipe Della Mare has already finished first, but bloody hell, bravo Zulu to all of them for just getting around. You saw how many of the original starters dropped out. So cool stuff, eh, Julia?
Absolutely.
And bravo Zulu to her and to our sport. Fantastic stuff.
Yes. She has perfect teeth, too.
She does?
Yeah. It's a great smile.
She is. She's going to be a big deal. I hope she makes money. I hope she's so modest and humble and nice. I hope she comes out of this smelling like a rose. Speaking of perfume.
Yeah, never mind the salt water. Yeah.
Smelling like a rose, as my dad used to say. Okay, let's get to John Emmett's report, the Coach's Corner for today. John checking in from the family farm. And it's a very interesting perspective on life.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Really good to be here on the show. Probably can guess, back at Imberhorn Farm. It's a flying visit, although not literally. My next flight will be, I guess, about 3 weeks' time when I go to Shanghai. But first of all, it's the qualifier season, and this seems to come round quicker and quicker. But in the UK, and I really strongly support this, we have a qualifier system where sailors need to qualify to go to international events. After all, in terms of ILCAs, if everybody who wanted to go to World Championships went, I guess there'll be 2,000 sailors. I mean, it would just be impossible. Even events like Palma, they have to put a restriction of maybe 180 ILCA 7s, for example, or it would be exceeded, and it's not unusual to have a waiting list. So I'm here recording in the setting sun, and I think in terms of coaching, it's always important to get sailors, athletes, to think very much for themselves. So what I'm going to ask you now is to think very carefully, you know, what's the important things that we can all do, not just elite athletes or full-time sailors, etc., at the beginning of the season, could give ourselves the best possible opportunity to perform, both short and long term. And I'm going to take you on a step-by-step of some of the things I'm doing now. I'm back in the UK, even if it's only for a few weeks. So really looking forward to putting that together. But have a think, and I'll try and keep you updated. As I say, just got the first qualifier in the bag. It literally was a case of one season ends and the next season begins, and that qualifier was at Brightling Sea. And it's important, I was talking to Neil Collingridge about this, you know, that we have the events spread around. Now Weymouth, and I do have some biases, a fantastic venue, it's very easy launching. We can get the whole fleet on the water very easily, very safely. That's one of the things we notice when we go to international events and you have floating pontoons, restricted access. It's not so easy. In Weymouth, we're very lucky. In fact, I suggest we probably lose more days sailing with too much wind rather than not enough. But, you know, the weather, everybody moans about it. Nobody does anything about it. But this is why it's important to have long events. I'm not a big fan of one-day events. I remember once I went up to Scotland, and I flew up there and didn't sail. Talked the whole day, probably much to the sailors' disappointment, and then flew back again. So yeah, at least weekend events. I think major championships, I think 6 days is definitely the sweet point. So yeah, we have weekend qualifiers because people are in school and so on and so forth. And actually the spring qualifiers, we've got 3 back-to-back, so people can do all the qualifiers, taking a little more than 2 weeks out of their programme. In fact, we've got 2 back-to-back qualifiers in Weymouth, so sailors can leave their boats there. But Brightling Sea, East Coast, it's good to spread it around. I also think we should have a northern qualifier, so at least 2 out of 6 are somewhere else other than the National Sailing Centre. Maybe sometimes 3, like 1 north, 1 east, 1 west, 3 in the south, I don't know. But we need to spread it around a bit, however fantastic Weymouth is. And in fact, Weymouth is looking for a new CEO as well. So I hope we get a sailing CEO. I echo Tom's thoughts here, rather than a businessman. And just, you know, really think about service providing, getting people coming to events and staying and socialising and all the rest of it. In fact, talking about travel, when I was 49er campaigning, and it's nothing against the venue, although it is a long way from Weymouth, we went up to Pwllheli, which is, I guess, you'd describe as the Welsh Centre of Excellence, or one of them. And I was sailing the 49er. The first day was blown off. The second day wasn't enough wind, and we went all the way there and back from Weymouth, and no sailing at all. Brightling Sea, I was a bit worried it was going to be like that, but actually we had a very windy Saturday, but we still managed to get 2 races in just because it's quite a tide dependent venue. In other words, there's no water around, low water, but they got 2 races in, enough for a series. And then Sunday we had no wind, a lot of waiting around, but for me it was great to catch up, and I've sort of put some dates in the diary to do some other training in Weymouth and try and help those people who have already qualified for the Olympic Games to perform as best they can. And you know, I've made no secret I'm still looking for you know, an Olympic spot and the opportunity to add value to somebody's campaign going forwards, because actually with 6 months to go, you're not really changing very much. You're avoiding illness, avoiding injury, and just polishing the trophy rather than trying anything new. So if you sail downwind with your knees up, you stay. You don't suddenly try and sail downwind with your knees down or whatever. It's just polishing, refining, and ultimately peaking. So that's, yeah, the last 6 months. And actually, in terms of going to Olympics in March, we have what's called a long list, where the member national authorities will put all the people they may send, support staff and so on, and later you have a short list because they all need to go through quite a vigorous screening process for obvious security reasons. So even though it feels like, you know, the game starts the end of July, it's actually starting now. Lot of ways. And the next big one is Princess Sophia. Not quite sure if I'll be there, but going to be doing a bit more sailing myself. Normally have more life balance, so I would coach at the Women's Worlds in Mar del Plata, and then I'd race at the Masters Worlds in Adelaide, and then I would coach at the Europeans in Athens, and then I would race in Weymouth, and then I would coach at Princess Sophia in Palma. So now my body, having done probably too much, is suffering a bit, so probably need to listen to my own advice. But it's a really nice problem to have, and I have enjoyed the sailing, and it's made me realise just how much I enjoy the coaching. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you on the show. The time zone now is currently my friend, and I am looking forward to that little sweet spot when the US changes its time before the UK. But see you soon, and sail safe, have fun, and do remember to share and like all these videos.
John, everybody's talking about his hair. They think he looks like Andrew McIrvin.
I know.
Mr. Doctor. Maybe that's his real dad. We just don't know it. Hey, and of course, time zones. We do go on daylight time this Sunday here in the States, the first Sunday in March, right? Second Sunday in March. Yeah, because of today's the 5th, 4th, 3rd. Yeah. Well, regardless, this Sunday. So we will be going ahead an hour, but we're running the show as we've been doing now for a couple of these clock changing cycles. We keep on 1300 local time. So we'll be on 1300 Pacific Daylight Time, which becomes 2000 UTC. And then you'll have to figure out your time zones. As John says, it gives them a sweet spot for a couple of weeks until Europe goes on daylight time. Then they're back to the different timing. With all that. Nice report as usual, John. But he also, I was struck by the fact that the UK, England has so many competitive small boat sailors that they have to have qualifications within their country to see who goes to a world championship. In the U.S., we're just happy whoever wants to go probably can go to not all, but most. And, if it's a borrowed boat thing like the Canard IKC, the International Canard Championship, that's a different deal. Only X many people per fleet can go because you're borrowing local boats. But, they have qualifications just to see who go to the Europeans, who can go offshore. Not here so much in the U.S. Speaking of which, here's a video that John produced just this morning, or at least edited and put up on the internet just before we went to air, about the Breitling Sea Regatta. They only race Saturday, not Sunday. But look at these cool people involved, again, in our beloved sport in this regatta.
Welcome to qualifier number 1. We're at Breitling Sea Sailing Club. We've had a very mixed bag here, 2 days of racing. One day, very windy, had to wait. Second day, actually, we never got on the water. But Luke, 2 races, that's a regatta. You won the event. Tell us a little bit about your prep.
Yeah, it was quite good. I didn't do a lot of prep for this, to be honest. It's kind of, haven't been in the boat for a while, so it's a good warm-up for the Europa Cup I got coming next week. I'm flying out to Palma on Wednesday, so Europa Cup there, and then a couple of weeks later got the Princess Sophia Regatta, so it's kind of full on for the next month.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your thoughts today? It must be a nervous start when you know you've effectively run the regatta if there's no more racing.
Not really, I've kind of been chilling.
Okay, relax, I don't know what to say to that. And before we let you go, what's your key regatta of this year?
Palma Princess Sophia, it's the big one.
That's the big one, okay, very best of luck, and hopefully see you there.
Cheers, John.
To my right is actually representing Bermuda at the Olympic Games, so that's a very big, I don't need to ask you what your biggest regatta is this year. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Adriana Penruddock. Yeah, I sail for Bermuda, in the Ilka 6 class, and yeah, just trying to do my best where I can and qualify the country. Looking forward to the Olympic Games.
I mean, it's amazing to qualify for the country. Not everyone's aware exactly how it works because it's quite a complicated process, but where and how did you qualify?
So last October at the Pan Am Games in Santiago, Chile, I had the opportunity, I first qualified there at the North American Championships after coming third there, qualifying me to go to Pan Am's, and then Pan Am's I qualified the country there, which was, yeah, amazing.
So the regional qualifier process, you got in there early, you can relax, your space is booked, it's now about peaking at the right time, and of course qualifiers really a good opportunity to come and race. You had some speed yesterday, leading the first race for most of it. Tell us about your day.
Just trying to keep it simple, really. Yesterday was kind of my conditions. I like the breeze a bit, just head down, speed, and just hike it out. And
You certainly did that.
Yeah, and just go from there, really.
The second race, I think you saw yellow.
The second race was just a little bit trickier. What was actually going on, I was trying to figure it out, but just trying to stay in phase with everyone else, and yeah, go from there.
Next stop, Princess Sophia in Palma after the Weymouth qualifiers.
Yep, Princess Sophia, and then Hieres, and yeah.
And then the big one. Well, wishing you lots of luck.
Yeah, and I do not know her. I don't know her family, so that was nice to see. A Bermudian, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Bermudian.
Yeah.
Now, John has a new book out. We just got a copy. I've looked through it. I haven't read it, but it's really a cool book. Let me get us on camera one here. It's called The Ilka Book. There, that's better.
Yep.
The Ilka Book, Ilka Sailing from Start, this is just the promo from the publisher, From Start to Finish, by Tim Davison and John Emmett. And I mean, it's visual, there's lots of photos, there's lots of explanations, simple, clean, really great book. Congratulations, John, on that book. We're not getting royalties, we're just promoting it because he's a Fozy and a friend. It's being published by Fern Hurst Books in the UK, which does a lot of sailing type books, and Bravo Zulu.
Who is the co-author?
Tim Davison, whom I do not know.
Yeah, we don't know him.
I don't know, but it's a cool book. Have a look. And John going from strength to strength, I think, here as a coach and as a publisher and more. So, John, congratulations on that. And I assume you can get that at Amazon Europe and Amazon US and wherever else.
Mm-hmm.
Books are sold, as they say. There's a picture of the book.
Yeah. Nice looking.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
The Ilka Book, the first edition, just out, published by Fernhurst. That's our report from John today. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. We got Bravo Zulus coming out our ears today, Julia. Huh?
Well, it's about time.
How do you like that book?
That's quite handsome.
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'll like this too, because this next segment is about U.S. flailing. There's more news on this front.
Mm-hmm.
We told you on Friday about J.J. Eisler, the celebrated two-time Olympian from this country, San Diegan, terrific sailor, big boats and small, but particularly in the 470 class. She came out with a personal and confidential letter to U.S. Sailing, to their president and CEO and the board, saying it's time for you all to resign in this lawsuit dispute with America One Racing. Bernie Wilson, also Fosey's been on this show many times, picked that. He's somebody, I didn't. He had it before I did, the letter. I have the letter. I'm not going to publish it. It's a superb 3-page letter. The reason I'm not going to publish it is because JJ asked me not to. So I won't. But Bernie talked to her, and she gave him, he asked her about a couple of the quotes in the letter. With American sailors in an Olympic slump, two-time medalist J.J. Feder, this is the Associated Press, Bernie Wilson writing, J.J. Feder is calling for the resignations of U.S. Sailing CEO, president, and any other board member who supports a federal lawsuit against the Sailing Foundation and 3 of its principals, including former Olympic team boss Paul Card, who is still, and that foundation are still supporting and are the primary supporters of our sailors. Card just won the Star Midwinters down in Florida at age, whatever he is, 64. Still a hell of a good sailor. Feder's, I continue here with Bernie's article. Feder's letter sent last Monday to U.S. Sailing President Richard Jepson, and the board of directors was obtained by the Associated Press. It offers the most pointed criticism yet of the governing body's lawsuit against the America One Foundation, CARD, its former chairman Bill Rue, also San Diego, and Jose Spina, who's a coach, a superb coach. The suit was filed in U.S. District Court, a federal court in Rhode Island on January 16th, which many in sailing felt distracted from the recent Olympic trials, to put it politely and mildly, Bernie. Now, since then, one hears another board member, a board member has resigned. I won't say who. I have his letter of resignation. I'm not going to go into it. He said it was for personal and business reasons, not necessarily because of the lawsuit, but you take that with a grain of salt. I think you're going to see other people fleeing this organization, both as members, as a lot of people and clubs and so on already have and are, but I think you're going to see some leaders and staff members and so on will also kick the bottle down the can down the road and get themselves out of this mess that U.S. Sailing has become. Mm-hmm. A former board member, Anna Fosey, Super Fosey, in fact, you know who that is, Julia. Mm-hmm. John Sangmeister from down in Long Beach, sailing on his big boat with sons Jack and Peter. He has 3 kids, one of whom is Bing Bong, who's on here a lot during the show, commenting. But John Sangmeister in the middle, Super Fosey, had this to say in an email to the board today. Congratulations on accelerating the destruction of women's sports through bad policy decisions from the board of directors of U.S. Sailing. Board of directors took this crazy policy of letting men who identify as women sailing in women's events. We had one of those events here in San Francisco a couple of years ago. Hopefully we haven't had many others. But many of you have suggested, and indeed John Sangmeister suggested, why don't we just have open events for men and women and have women's only events so that we can continue the growth of women's sailing and not have men competing who identify as women, even though they're physiologically men, competing in women's events. And Sangmeister, I feel strongly was right about that. Others on that board did not. Mm-hmm. But carrying on here, in his second paragraph, John wrote, speaking, and I asked his permission to print this email on the show today, use it. Speaking of bad decisions and poor judgment, who voted to authorize the litigation? Who is paying for this? Member dues? Did anyone consult with other donors before going down this path of self-destruction. You have squandered a once in every other generation opportunity. This is a really good point. You've squandered a once in every other generation opportunity not only to rebuild interest in sailing in the United States, but globally, meaning the Olympic Games here in 2028 in Long Beach. The LA 28 Games, the telegenic qualities of the sailing venue hosted in the world's most important media market, Hollywood, etc., could have, should have been something we could have all looked back upon with great pride. Just as the 84 Games generated enormous interest and new participation, not just, by the way, not just in this country, but worldwide because of that. LA 28 was an opportunity to elevate sailing onto a world stage. Instead, we will have little to show for the effort, and sailing will receive little attention. You have failed future generations. I echo JJ's sentiments. You should all resign. Signed, John Sangmeister, our super fozy down in Long Beach. And you all know how I feel about it, Julia.
Yes.
You certainly agree, and I'm sure many others of you on here. Greg Normand, our new friend in the Great Lakes, will be on Inside Great Lakes Sailing, his YouTube show, his YouTube podcast, next Wednesday with an announcement that I think will shock our racing community. Okay?
Oh, yeah?
Let's see what that is. Gordon Smith, writing a well-structured... Okay, well, he's back talking about John's amazing book. All of you went kind of quiet and silent because you can still, I'm sure most of you cannot believe this is going on. Greg Norman says there is some movement behind the scenes to settle the suit. Just heard that this morning. I'm hearing the same. Greg Clark Chapin, who is on here, is another super fozy and really one of the founders, early supporters of this show, our friend in Plymouth, Michigan, past commodore of my home club in Michigan. He probably is aware of some of that going on too. I've not talked to Clark about this. So, Stingray, I don't think that's the amazing news, Stingray. Speaking of Mr. Jepson, the current president, he's got a heart of gold, I'm sure. I don't know him well, but I know him. He's a member of St. Francis Yacht Club. He's from the Bay Area. But, Mr. President, it's time to lead your board and yourself to resign. And I support John Sangmeister and J.J. Fetter and many others across the country who are calling for same. And of course, the non-sailing CEO, this guy has got to go. This would have never happened on the watch of somebody more capable, more tuned in to our beloved sport, more aware of how sailing and sailors and donors and classes and clubs work, and the history and tradition of Olympic sailing and sailing in general in this country. The non-sailing CEO has to go. Full stop. Enough of that. Let's get to this day in history. Speaking of massacres, this was this day in history. Where's my audio, Julia? Bring that up. For the 5th of March, 1770.
Oh my gosh. I can hardly remember.
Famous, yeah, I know this a little before your time, not much. A little before my time, too. Here's your first clue.
1770s.
1770, pre-Revolutionary War.
Looks like the Liberty Bell.
No, that's the North Church, though, in Boston. That might help a little bit.
Tea Party?
You can see up at the top, it says the Bloody Massacre perpetuated in King Street, Boston on March 5th, 1770 by a party of the 29th Regiment. Now, here they're accusing the Brits of starting this, what became known as the Boston Massacre, when 5 American, well, then colonials, British colonials, but American colonials died. And this whole thing talk about fake news, but it was started by the Americans. It was a bitter cold night, having done some research, the colonies. It was a bitter cold night in Boston. The British troops were guarding the custom house where all the king's money was to support the activities of the British in that colony, Mass Bay Colony in Boston. And some kids we would call them maybe thugs today, came throwing stones and snowballs at the lone soldier. And he thought, well, this is going to get out of hand. They're going to come in here and start stealing. They're going to break in and steal the king's money. And before you know it, he was joined by other soldiers, and it got out of hand, and they fired some shots at this crowd that had gathered in the meantime. And it became known as the Boston Massacre. The incident on King Street, in which 5 men in a crowd throwing snowballs, stones, and sticks at the Brits were killed. African-American Crispus Attucks was the first to die, later held up as an early black martyr. Massacre galvanizes anti-British feelings, which of course led to the Revolutionary War. So this and the Tea Party and a few other things. But for extra credit, Julia, any idea who produced that now famous engraving?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I have no idea. Who would have done it then? Benjamin.
Paul Revere.
Oh, I was going to say, all right.
The British are coming. Encouraged anti-British attitudes by etching a now famous engraving depicting British soldiers callously murdering American colonists. It showed the British as the instigators, though the colonists had created the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I'm trying to be neutral here.
Yes.
It also portrayed the soldiers as vicious men and the colonists as gentlemen. It was later determined that Revere had copied his engraving from one made by Boston artist Henry Pelham. Fake news, Julia.
Oh, yes.
But it led to, in part, it helped lead to the revolution. And that all happened on this day in history. March 5th, 1770. We go to the comments. Many consider this the first shot of the Revolutionary War. Baton Cannon down in Charleston would know. Josh Tozo knew Paul Revere did that. Now, Tozo's a smart boy.
Yes.
He used to work for U.S. Sailing, and I got a note from him this morning. He's actually footloose and fancy free. He's left the country, the company that he was working for, and they're downsizing. This, the industry is struggling a bit in this current economy,
right.
And Josh Tozo is leaving. And if anyone needs a very smart young guy, he's 40-ish, marketing type who knows our sport inside and out, particularly the small boat market, Tozo is on the market, so to speak. That's Josh's comment. Paul Revere, a lot of people knew that was Revere, not Benjamin Franklin fog machine, but it got out of hand. That's polite, David Shane. Well, I'm trying to be polite on here, David. I know most of you will find that surprising. Okay, let's get to our featured story because this is great news now that we've got the massacre behind us, Julia. This is cool stuff. We followed this last week. They had a huge turnout at the OK Dinghy Worlds in Brisbane, down in Oz, at the Royal in Spanish, but the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron. 112 boats from 7 countries. Thanks again to our Fozy Boomer Bland down in Austin, Texas, who is the executive secretary of the class in this country. And Russell Coots's brother, Rob, is the president of the OK Dinghy class. And also their superb publicist, Robert Deves of the UK, who sent out email after email, photo after photo, most of which he took, and videos that I'm not sure who took and produced them, but they're really cool. Long story short, Nick Craig from Great Britain won his 6th, count them, 6th OK Dinghy World Championship at this record-breaking event. Now, why do you think, Julia, it was the 2024 sponsored by Tan Lines? What do you think Tan Lines is?
Oh, there was a regatta that was Tan Lines.
This is that regatta. We talked about them last week. Tan Lines is the sponsor. What kind of a sponsor? I thought it was, it's in Australia. I thought maybe they made Speedos. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. They must have made Speedos, or maybe they made sun cream,
Yeah.
SPF 50 sun lotion, Tan Line sun lotion or something. No, it's a distillery. It's a distillery. Anybody sunscreen maker? Julie Aaron's guess? No? Yeah, it's always a good sign. Clark Chapin is saying when you need 3 digits for the bow numbers Karen Robertson, who is also an OK Dinghy sailor there in Scotland, she's saying Mark Jackson and also Fozy is the OK Dinghy class president and came 8th at the Worlds too. Also a good sign of a great class when the class leadership is not only racing but doing well in the championship. So this Tan Lines OK Dinghy World Championship in Brisbane was a fantastic celebration. This is a press release, but I'm hearing this by all accounts from several different sources. Fantastic celebration of OK Dinghy sailing in some amazing conditions and run with precision and enthusiasm by both the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron and the Australian OK Dinghy class. It was also the biggest OK Dinghy event ever held in Australia and one of the largest outside of Europe, if not the largest, and creates a great legacy for the local and international fleets, with many records being broken. And
it sounds terrific.
It is that. I don't think they lost a day. I don't think they lost a race. The conditions, some was a little light, but some of it they blew like hell, and they had.
Yeah, but that's a perfect venue for sailing.
It is indeed. And now we have a perfect video recapping the event. Everybody's commenting on the music.
Mm-hmm.
We were too. Julia was great music. And what was the comment here about it being a Quinn Martin is a big television production house in this, maybe still is. It was back in the 70s, 80s anyway, in this country. And The Streets of San Francisco was one show. You see on here, Fog Machine, who is Lance Burke, our colleague and friend over at St. Francis Yacht Club, very bright boy. We call him Amadeus because of his hair. He looks like a bit like a poodle with his hair, but a very bright boy. And he says, yeah, it's a Quinn Martin production, The Streets of Stingray, it sounded a bit like your marching band, like the University of Washington or University of Michigan marching band, or
Gordon Smith got it. Anyway.
Mannix, yeah. Fritz Mueller's got it, a Mannix theme, or even at the start, a little bit like Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it does.
Huh?
Yeah.
The OK Dinghy class, OKDIA. You know what the I stands for, Julia?
Association.
International. The OK Dinghy International Association. Bravo Zulu to them. Silver was won by Andy Davis, also of Great Britain, and he was second when we checked in on this regatta last Friday. Third place was the gentleman from Australia whose last name we weren't quite sure how to pronounce. We were told it's Blasé, not like the French spelling Blasé, but it's Blasey or Blaz or Blasé. He was third, bronze, and he was in third place last Friday as well. So they prevailed through the weekend in this huge fleet, but also Mr. Deves, Robert Deves, the publicist for the class, put out pictures with captions. We talked about this, Julia.
Yep.
They sent out their nice press release in a chimp mail, high-res pictures and captions under every picture of the name, the country.
Oh, they deserve a medal.
Bravo Zulu to them. And I can tell you this was the top, thanks to his captions, the top woman, Pam Johnson from Australia. I wouldn't have run this otherwise. And this was the top junior, Jordan Barney from Australia. And they also, and I didn't run them all because we'd be here all day, but the top master, the top grandmaster, the top veteran, whatever that is, another master class, I guess, the top this and that and the other thing, top neophyte, top first time. Bravo Zulu to the OK Dinghy class. And here's an interview with the winner, Nick Craig.
Fantastic, yeah, I could not be happier. Going into this morning, I felt very vulnerable with the 20th, and Taxi and Roger, I think, had better scorelines than me really going into the day. So, yeah, relieved and happy. Yeah, the first beat was very tricky. I got on the wrong side of the last shift, which has happened quite a lot, but I just managed to, I don't know, scrape round 10, 15 maybe. And then luckily Taxi was behind me, Roger not far in front, and we both chipped our way through the fleet. So Roger won it, he did really well. I got to third, Taxi got to fifth, which was what I needed really going into the last race. But that was a very tough race, yeah. Yeah, last race the breeze came up, which I was so happy about because I needed a 9th at worst. And when the breeze came up, I had a bit more speed in the light stuff. There's lots of quick people, so I was really happy when the wind came up for the last race, and it was a lot of fun. I knew it would be tough. It's always hard coming out of the British winter and coming and competing at a championship. The fleet's really good. And frankly, I rode my luck this week. There were 4 times I came into the windward mark, probably outside the top 20. 3 of those, the last shift, just went my way and I squeezed in the top 10. And one of them it didn't, and that's where I got my 20th. So if that had happened one more time, I'd have been out of it. So I felt like I rode my luck for sure this week. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, what a place. And we retreated in the last race. We had force 3-4, big waves, 30 degrees, sailing in a half wetsuit and a rash vest, just stunning conditions. Yeah, fabulous. It's such a facility, huge club, really well run, amazing food, beer, everything really well looked after here. And hopefully come back in a couple of years at the Finch.
There's that music again, Julia. Huh?
Yeah.
So Bravo Zulu to Nick, Bravo Zulu to everybody. Turn that down just a bit. Everybody involved. It was, by all accounts, a terrific event. Nick, of course, won on 15 points, and Andy Davis, and I'm told by no less an authority than Alistair Murray. So it is Roger Blasé, who was third. He's an Aussie on 31 points, and then down through the top 10, including President Mark Jackson in 8th place. Bravo Zulu to them all. I'll read this. The OK Dinghy, this is the last paragraph of their press release. Fine press release. The OK Dinghy class continues to grow and attract the best sailors. While this championship did have less, I think they meant fewer, Europeans than usual, the class is already looking forward to the European Championship in Palma in October. and next year's Worlds at Garda, on Garda, in September. During the week in Brisbane, the 2026 World Championship was also confirmed for Denmark. So Gordon Smith, you're going to have a close-up look of this class coming in 26. And Denmark has the largest OK dinghy fleet in the world.
Wow.
Bigger and better championships would appear to be about as certain as night following day in the coming years. So bravo, Zulu, again, to all involved, and especially Mr. Nick Craig on his 6th. He's got to be the GOAT.
Yeah.
And apparently he's been on the podium, Julia, for the last 25 years.
Wow.
You know, in one place or another, third, second, first, not just a string of firsts on and off over the last, decade or so.
Good for him.
Karen Roberts, that's a hell of a class you're involved with. And Boomer Bland and the rest of you that are senior series people in the OK Dinghy class. Now for something a little different. You probably weren't expecting this. Several of you sent me the new North Sails logo, which I wasn't too surprised about. I've been watching their website, and I'll show you why in a moment. But they went from basically the bottom line, they changed from, that's the new logo, from the old sans serif, the old serif logo. You see North Sails in the middle with the old kind of, and the N and the S, was serifs, to the sans serif, which is the more modern, supposedly web-friendly, internet-friendly, sans serif typeface. And, you know, a lot of people are saying that new one is not correct. I don't know if it's correct or cretonic. I thought it was fine. I rather liked it, barely noticed the difference. And we ask you now whether this new logo, which has gone sans serif, is correct or cretonic. You all know the difference, I'm sure, in typography and lettering. A sans serif, Gothic, or simply sans letter form is one that does not have those extending features called serifs. This is now sailing serifs. Serifs illustrated. At the end of strokes, sans serif typefaces tend to have less stroke width variation than serif typefaces. They're often used to convey simplicity and modernity. Isn't it modernity?
No.
Modernity? Or minimalism. For the purposes of type classification, sans serif designs are usually divided. Okay, who cares? So that's the deal. Sans serif typefaces have become the most prevalent for display of text on computer screens, especially on lower resolution digital displays. Fine details like serifs may disappear or appear too large. I mean, frankly, when I'm doing cutting and pasting off of the internet, off of websites, and out of emails and so on, the sans serif registers much better than serif typefaces, so no surprise. Now, I didn't know this. The term comes from the French word sans, that I knew, meaning without, and serif of uncertain origin, possibly from the Dutch word schrift, meaning line or pen stroke. We got our Dutch Fozy on here can validate that or not. In printed media, they're more commonly used for display use and less for body text, indeed. So there it is from their Wikipedia page. Now, they did make one screw up, in my never so humble opinion. You see, it looks just like blue and no outer white ring, Julia?
Yeah.
Well, there's actually an outer white ring. And when you go to their logo and reverse the background in a PNG slide, it's actually that outer white ring, which I think is a screw up. I like it's more simple with the blue outer ring and not the outer white ring. And then on a white, because then on a white background, like you see on the right, you don't see the outer white ring and it looks like a different logo. So I think North's got to go have their graphic artists look at that. Now, this was presaged, if that's the right word, Julia, by North Windsurfing, which you see that North, that stylized, that's the R that's used now.
Right.
And the North, and this is a windsurfer video from their website, and something I'd never seen before. North Windsurfing is entering the third dimension, and North Sails is leading the way, copyright 2024. And they have even a new Club North. Now look at that logo. Is that the next North logo? Or is the future here? They have 3 different brands. I did not know this. Club North is a joint, and this Club North is new. It's a joint membership under all 3 brands. of North and North Action Sports Group, North Kiteboarding, Mystic, and North Windsurfing. This means club members benefit from exclusive access, experiences, and perks across all three brands. I'd never heard of these brands, and I guess I'm not enough of a windsurfer. But the club entitles you to be covered on the water with insurance and warranty and this pro weather app and sail repairs, kite repairs. And you get exclusive access and experiences by joining this club. And a welcome gift, Julia, and a demo program. Maybe they'll make us complimentary members and send us all this stuff, and we'll put it up and show you. It's you can join yourself for only 120 somethings, euros, I guess, dollars, euros per year. It renews automatically if and when you give them your credit card. So there's the new logo. Is it correct or croutonic, Julia? What do you think?
Well, I think the outside white ring makes more of a statement, but it is not as clean.
I agree. What are the commenters saying here? Replied about title serifs. Oh man, white ring is more visible on today's black sails. Good point, Rick, Chris Fury. Will the Ilka guys figure that? Yeah, their logo needs some work. What was wrong with the old logo? Clayton, Emily. Well, after a little bourbon, Clayton, they probably it would be fine. Okay, blue outer ring makes it invisible on blue background. Fritz Mueller is saying, yes, indeed. So I guess the outside white ring is maybe for stitch. Okay. No opinion or preference here. Okay, so we've covered it. We've given North Sails a little love. And maybe that logo is better with the white ring. Okay. That gets us to the finish line, probably blessedly so, Julia. The last leg. Sorry, not the finish line quite yet, because I've got a couple cool videos.
Okay.
And the first one is from, Fritz Mueller mentioned here earlier in the show, the Bacardi Cup is going on. Been a little light.
There's been good stuff.
Good stuff. You've seen it online.
Yeah.
And of course, the Star class, the granddaddy of the Bacardi Cup, which was originally the only class. Now they got a bunch of classes down there sailing, one design classes. Any big boats? Any one design keel boats that are racing? I'm not 100% sure. But here's the video from the Star class after yesterday's racing.
It's the best event in the world.
The Bacardi Cup is an institution.
Legendary event.
Tradition, history.
97 years running.
We are sailing just outside from the club.
Such a good place to be.
What can be better? We have a beautiful wind and a beautiful boat.
It's not just about the event, it's about the people.
A very high level of sailors.
Cannot wait to have another race, because it's so beautiful out there.
We had a clear start on the pin, going left.
We were leading on the top mark, but we lost the 3 places on the downwind.
Then we got the lead downwind, but second upwind, people on the right were a little bit better.
On the end, we had a great battle with Augie Diaz.
We got, a little bit lucky at the end of the race where, Mateus and Bruno jibed a little early, in my opinion. And we were able to just go to the right spot and be able to pass them, to jump them. But it was really mostly about being in the right place at the right time.
The Star class. The Star class is it.
To the Star class. Great stuff. And now Clark is saying that only stars at this event. Now, Ding Schoonmaker's not there. As you know, Claire, he passed some years ago, our longtime friend and longtime New York Yacht Club member. There's Vice Commodore Harrington. We welcome her to the show. Steve Gruber is saying that there are, where is it?
Melges 24.
Yep, Rita, go ahead.
Melges 24, J70, Viper 640. And VX One Design.
But Clark is saying only stars at this event. So maybe there's a Bacardi Cup race week next week, and this is the first week for the stars only. 97th annual, is that what they said? I think the 97th annual Bacardi Cup, which has been raced since obviously the early 1900s.
1927.
Well, there it is. Thank you. The 1927 in Miami. And was it ever, I wonder if it was raced in Cuba, or as JFK, as President Kennedy would have said, Cuba.
Well, probably.
Before it went to Miami. Who knows? There's a trivial not so trivial question.
I knew the young Mr. Bacardi.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Did you party with Bacardi?
Mm-hmm.
One of your boyfriends was in that video too. I saw him.
Right?
Lars Grail.
Oh, I saw that.
Hasn't he stayed here at the Beach Street Yacht Club?
I don't think so.
In the guest room?
I don't think so.
You were in love with him before you were in love with K-Art.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, you weren't? Oh, Lars Grail predates K-Art? I'll tell you, my late great mother sure liked K-Art.
Yeah.
And attractive human beings, cool people, like Ding Schoonmaker, who Vice Commodore Harrington is referring to. Ding was the... he was the patron. He was the patron saint of the star class, at least in the last 30, 40 years. From Miami, was highly active in U.S. sailing. Was a vice president of world sailing when it was IYRU and ISAF. And a dear friend of mine, and Tracy, his widow, Tracy Schoonmaker, is one of the largest, via Ding and their estate, is one of the largest contributors to U.S. sailing and to our U.S. sailing team, thanks to the legacy of the late, great Ding Schoonmaker, and many, many others in the beloved star. Have I used that word too much today?
Maybe.
The beloved star class. It is the beloved class. Julie Ahrens is saying, "Be still, my heart. Nobody measures up to Paul K-Art." Oh,
He'd
man.
shrug his shoulders. All of us.
Okay. Fritz Mueller replying to Peter Taylor, well, with more diversification, they will move further away from their core business, hire more managers, centralize more production offshore. Yeah, I wonder, we'll see. Let's say, I agree with Claire Harrington again, thinking of him, of Ding Schoonmaker. And we'll dedicate this segment to him. But did you also notice that Augie Diaz won a race?
Yes.
Huh?
I haven't
How
seen
cool
that
is
name
that?
for a while. Yeah.
Well, you know, he did well in the Masters Regatta down in San Diego last October. Was it October? And did he win it? He did well in it in any event. And the guy is, my age, maybe a couple, 3 years older.
Yeah.
His dad just passed away.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And his dad you talk about neat people, nice people, and long-time supporters of the sport in SoCal and beyond. Okay. I have another cool video. The 49er and the 49er FX, or better today known as just the FX class, their Worlds is underway. Here is their Day Zero video from Lanzarote yesterday.
Here we are in the south of Lanzarote, and Marina Rubicon is buzzing with activity as we get into the 49er and 49er FX Worlds. Marina Rubicon and Lanzarote, it's an absolute privilege to be part of the 49er class and host an event as the World Championship for this 2024. The wind looks very good, the forecast looks good, the leagues have been with us for several months. They know the place, we know them, and we hope that together we can have a very, very top World Championship for them. So the sailors have done everything they can to be ready, and now they are going to get into 6 days of racing, starting with 3 days of qualifying, and the first day looks nice and windy.
Looks like another cool event going on in Lanzarote. The 49er and the 49er FX Worlds. The FX Worlds. Go ahead.
As I was looking at that being a Rolex sponsored something other, how has the sailing world acknowledged and thanked Rolex?
By buying lots of Rolexes.
I know, but...
You have a Rolex?
No.
You better get one. No, I think they're getting return on their investment or they wouldn't be doing it. The ROI, whether it's the Big Boat Series here in San Francisco or all the Fastnet or the Sydney Hobart. Or...
It's beyond an ROI because they really have saved a lot of things and
And continue to do so.
Yeah.
Well, true. And we thank them every day. I think they're like Louis Vuitton is now back sponsoring the Challenger Selection Series for the America's Cup.
Which is wonderful.
Which is wonderful as well. Okay, it looks like a terrific event. We'll follow that on Friday, and it wraps up, I guess, this weekend in Lanzarote. And I was going to make another, I know, I got some comments here that were helping. Scott Harris, John Rogers, hello, Coach Rogers, down in San Diego, an esteemed coach of collegiate and high school and more, sailing. Scott Harris of the, you know what the CORYC is? The Coronado Yacht Club.
Aha.
In San Diego. Yeah. Won the Masters. I think John, has he won it the last 2 years running? Even a blind squirrel finds a nut. That's damning with faint praise, John. Blake Middleton checking in from Minnesota. And David James with a factoid. Thank you, David, for looking that up. Presumably you looked that up. Maybe you knew that. The Bacardi Cup had to leave Cuba in 1934. It's been in Miami apparently ever since. What was that comment? The 49ers are really
sexy.
Flying 18-footers had the Flying 18s are in the middle of their regatta down there. We'll talk some more about the Ideens in due course. Stingray, thank you for that.
He can have his 49ers and I'll have my 49ers.
You like the 18s. You used to go down there and watch the 18s as well.
Yeah.
Just admit it, you're an Australian at heart.
I am.
Huh?
Yeah.
You are. That gets us to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. We have 3 that are clean, Julia. You'll be proud to know that the Fozy have sent in clean ones. I'm sorry for what I said when I was docking the boat. Now, for extra credit, as we're fond of saying, can you identify the yacht?
No.
Or that burgee?
No.
The yacht, I'm authoritatively told, I'm advised, is an ideal 18. And that from no less an authority than the fuzzy Fozy Rick Bannerow.
Oh, good for him.
Now, the burgee, no one has yet identified. Maybe somebody on here. Yeah, an ideal Baton Rouge says, yeah, that's an ideal 18. But I don't recognize the club, the anchor you can't see it. I should have zoomed it a bit. The anchor in the upper left corner of the burgee and the blue slash across the middle. Somebody will pick that out. And that's from Martha Peterson, our good friend here at the St. Fancy.
Yes.
Now, Julia, this is not quite a finger wag. When she goes through your phone and all she sees are sailboat photos.
Yes.
Ed Worley sent that up from SoCal. Thank you, Ed. It's clean.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's clean, isn't it?
I think so.
What are the implications? Did you ever look through your husband's? Did you ever look through Conrad's phone and find anything other than
no
sailing or boating or
no?
And finally, Julia, this is a fabulous photo sent by several of you. I give Peter Taylor credit. Ed Worley, I think, also sent it along. It's from a website called Sailing Rose, a Facebook page, I should say. Sailing Rose, quote, "Sailing fun has no age limit." Chris Dewar and Steve Gruber saying that burgee is the St. Pete Sailing Center or the St. Petersburg Yacht Club, one or the other. Maybe both.
That's good to know.
But back to this photo of somebody in an Opti. Do you recognize the somebody? Arguably the most famous sailor, at least Olympic sailor, in the last 100 years, I would venture a guess. Right up there, maybe ahead of Buddy Malgus, maybe ahead of Ben Ainsley, certainly in the league.
Oh, gosh.
A lifetime sport. Gordon
Elstrom?
Smith, yeah, that is Paul Elstrom.
Ah.
Fritz Mueller's got it, Steve Gruber's got it, Blake Middleton. Lots of you have recognized the late, great Dane, Paul Elstrom.
Now, tell me the knees up thing versus...
The what thing?
Looking good with the knees up And
okay. Speaking of knees up here in this photo, there's two different techniques. John Emmett can elucidate. He can explain better than I. There's two different techniques in sailing a laser downwind. One is knees up and feet kind of hooked under the hiking straps. The laser is really tippy downwind. It is very unstable. And what happens, long story short, at the top of the rig, it starts to go to windward. And the top of the sail generates more lift to windward, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you got to counteract it with your weight and with steering to keep the boat from rolling over on top of itself.
Right.
Then the boat starts to go the other way. It starts to roll to leeward, and guess what? The flow on the top of the mainsail changes. If I'm doing this right, John, or anyone else, the top of the flow on the flow at the top of the main of the sail, the only sail, on the laser starts to go the other way, and it starts to drive the boat to capsize.
I can believe that.
And you got to steer and use your weight and even a little trim to keep the boat going downhill. And there are two different seating techniques in the boat. One is knees up and one is knees. I wonder if in John's book we could probably point that out, but we'll do that another time. Or you can do it right now if you want while I wrap the show. Knees up is British slang for a drinking session, Fog Machine says. The dreaded death roll downwind, Peter Taylor is saying. Yeah, lasers downwind are like wet soap on ice, Chris Fury is saying. So knees down when hard by the lee when you want to press, when John Emmett is saying, meaning when you want to press down, when you want to go further to leeward. Okay, that was excellent, Tom. Thank you. I hope I got that mostly right. Being the old I had a laser before a lot of people on here were born. Maybe not quite right.
Yes.
But Clark Chapin, too, had an early laser at our little club. And we were one of the early laser dealers at Portage Lake, my dad, and our business at Portage Lake in this country, indeed in the world. Sunfish lasers, Hobie cats, and more.
Wow.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my. That gets us well and truly now to the finish line. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes. Like, follow, and share, especially these programs, because people really do appreciate it.
They do, and we appreciate all of your support, even push. And I was surprised. I was surprised by how many people actually do share the show. Right now, they go click the share button, which shares it to their own Facebook page.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, by the way, our YouTube channel is growing.
Yes.
Not quite by Topsy.
Yeah.
Topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
But it's growing. Indeed, it is growing.
Yes.
Comments are welcome, even in replay. So if you want to go back, Julia, and watch and read and listen in replay, you can still leave comments, and we look at them.
Yes, we do.
As do a lot of other people.
Because it's hard to do it all live, to get it all.
Indeed. Thank you again to all of you who do support us via Patreon. If you're not already, become a patron. Pay at patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. Julie, any final thoughts while we go through the credits?
We have lots to be thankful for, and we shouldn't forget that.
Good point. Thierry de Jong, Cole Brauer will finish on Friday, he is saying. I hope he's right. We'll celebrate. I hope she finishes during the show on Friday. That would even be more fun.
Yes.
Thank you, Thierry. Thank you, Fritz Mueller.
Have we somebody there appointed to meet her?
We don't have anybody who's going to meet her. Maybe, I wonder if Monica Diaz, our Fozy in southern Spain, will be up there. That would be great if Monica was there, and if she is, I hope she gets some sound from her. She will be overwhelmed. We'll get all sorts of good sound from mainstream media and otherwise, I'm sure. Ted Ryman, thank you. We'll see you all on Friday. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Follow Cole. We'll follow Cole Brauer. And in the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.